move forward in this neo-colonialism. And it should continue inspiring the spirit of Pan-Africanism, the pride of Africa in fighting imperialism and fighting recolonization. And movements like Black Lives Matter must stand up and emphasize African dignity.
The day may be significant to Africa, but what is it that other African countries can learn for future peaceful coexistence and togetherness? The answer is this.
Africa would be vulnerable if it does not integrate, because as a single nation, these countries or as nation states, they are not able to stand up against aggression. We need cooperation in terms of defense. Possibly, there should be a sponsorship at the AU to adopt a resolution that the ADOA, as an important site, be recognized as an African-owned site, and it should be celebrated annually to remind us, to remind the Africans that this was a great historical event that needs to be kept in our minds, and its spirit should be kept alive if Africa is to survive in the 21st century.
The event to commemorate the victory of ADOA was jointly organized by Makerere University in partnership with the Embassy of the Federal Republic of Ethiopia.
This was inspirational for the entire Pan-Africanism world over.
It is not only the victory of ADOA or the victory of Ethiopian, it is a victory of Africans in the continent, in the diaspora, whom fought colonialism.
To date, the victory of ADOA remains a preeminent symbol of Pan-Africanism. After Ethiopia and Liberia survived white man's rule in Africa. Henry Okrut, UBC.
The cultivating of talent.
In more news, to implement and achieve the Global Sustainable Development Goal 17, the private sector has a valuable role in advancing the agenda. It's by providing goods and services, financing socio-economic investments through taxes, and creating innovative solutions to help tackle development challenges. The UN family believes that accelerating the 2030 agenda requires everybody on board. Now, the UN Resident Coordinator, Her Excellence Rosa Malango, says there's need to create a value chain for different organizations and entities for proper coordination.
Of General Duties and Focal Points, Minister of the Sustainability.
We are having a discussion about value chains right now. So if you have a discussion about value chains, there'll be different type of organizations, entities, or businesses that play different roles, from the farmer all the way to the processor, to the distributor, to getting it to marketing. So it's, you cannot talk about one group and how do you bring them together. No, we need diversity, we need coordination, we need cohesion, and we need, most importantly than all, a link from the farm all the way to the supermarket.
You know, you would ask yourself, Africa has all it takes to develop. We have the land, we have the water, we have the sun, we have everything, yet our people are still wallowing in poverty. Why? It means we have to accelerate and we have to redouble our efforts in terms of addressing development challenges. And one of the ways to really connect the dots, bring the government, the UN, the private sector together. And therefore, a conversation around today is about trying to see where the opportunities are and where we can go to scale. For example, when the youth we're providing opportunities, the private sector said, well, the UN can help us with guarantees to de-risk.
In more news, the Office of the Prime Minister has today drawn and showcased the journey of Uganda and her achievements towards obtaining 100% set target of Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. This is to advance integrated implementation of the 2063 Agenda, which are mutually reinforcing. Our reporter, Shaidat Nasaku, with the details.
As the curtain gets down on the Millennium Development Goals, Uganda celebrated an outstanding achievement aimed at reducing extreme poverty to 1/3 of the population. This, however, between 2012 and 2017, fell to under 1% a year, while Ugandans returned to 6% annual GDP growth in 2018-2019, and household expenditure is rising. Some Ugandans still live below the poverty line. With the outbreak of COVID-19, the country lagged behind in all sectors. That brought about the limit of SDGs that had risen to 50%.
The speed at which we are looking at achieving now slackened. Most of the things we utilize or use are imported. We are not 100% self-sufficient in terms of what we use. Now had a limitation in the products we use, especially when we talk about scientific products, that machinery, things like equipment, some medicines. Now there was a limitation, scarcity. We intended to achieve, because some of these deliverables or contributory actions are achieved at that time.
In this, the Commissioner Strategic Coordination and Implementation of PM James Tegeza says they are drafting measures on how to rise again and go past the previous percentage in the shortest time possible in order to achieve their goal by 2030.
I want to emphasize the fact that SDGs do not have separate money to implement national aspirations. We are looking at all these frameworks that seek to collect more data in a more organized way, the surveys and so on, and reporting, monitoring and evaluation, and the overall coordination framework. Because what you see as SDG coordination framework is just a customization of the bigger institutional policy framework for coordination, where all other coordinators in their various mandates align to.
Tegeza further reiterates that they still have hopes of having all Ugandans above the poverty line by 2030.
And now 90% of the National Development Plan 3. National Development Plan 2, we're at 69%.
Through cooperation amongst all the stakeholders and citizens, we have witnessed how we can overcome development challenges if we work together.
The side event of the 7th Africa Regional Forum on Sustainable Development Goals was under the theme Strengthening Voluntary National Reviews, Uganda's Leadership Journey in Implementation and Reporting on the Sustainable Development Goals. Shaidat in Nasaku, UBC News.
The government of Uganda, through the Directorate of Industrial Training and the Ministry of Education and Sports, in partnership with the International Labour Organization, are coming in handy to skill the refugees with sustainable employable skills to improve on their livelihood. Now, the move seeks to address precarious challenges of poverty, lawlessness, discrimination and idleness, which dominate the lives of refugees while they settle in gazetted camps. Details in this report.
The International Labour Organization is empowering refugees with vocational skills as a way of addressing redundancy in camps. Over 5,000 refugees and host communities from the 3 districts of Arua, Isinjiro and Madiokolo will benefit from the training of quality soap making in the next 5 years. The Directorate of Industrial Training in the Ministry of Education and Sports will assess and certify the trainees. Stakeholders are meeting in Arua district to develop standards for the occupation of a soap maker. The pilot project is expected to commence in July. The Acting Deputy Director, Directorate of Industrial Training, Dr. Michael Kumu, says refugees need skills for self-sustainability, health and protection.
The issue of skilling in refugees is very critical, where you need to skill the refugees for livelihood, and one of the things we do is to support any skilling program which refugees are also included. We have started with soap making because, as you know and you are aware, soap is one of the critical things which is being used now to fight COVID under the standard operating procedures. People are washing their hands using soap. People are using detergents to fight coronavirus. So soap making became so critical among the many occupations, about 15 of them which have been identified.
Arua City Mayor Alhaji Afeku Isakato called on local leaders to empower their communities with employable skills for economic growth.
It's very important because now we have got the knowledge here. This will boost the capacity of what we are producing. And we shall also go to camps. And also as refugee hosts, we shall also benefit by giving them the skills in the camps, and also after learning, they will produce these products, and the schools, the institutions will benefit from this. And it will also help on the other side on curbing COVID.
In another development, the Directorate of Industrial Training assessed close to 100 Juakali youth in Moroto district who have undergone a 3-month training in tailoring, carpentry and welding. Save the Children Fund supported the training. The principal, Matanyi Girls Vocational Institute, Naduk Florence Nora, says the skills acquired by the youth will help them alleviate poverty in their communities.
They know what they are doing, they have been created and they are confident, and that's why they are there selling off themselves, selling off their ideas, their work, and they're buying, selling, they're making, selling. And that's what we really want these girls to do.
In more news, Uganda's agribusiness sector is set to benefit from trade opportunities and expansion of product market under the African Continental Free Trade Area Treaty. However, to live the dream, embracing digital economy, public and private sector partnership is emphasized. This was observed at the 3rd Strategic Leadership Summit held at the Kampala Sheraton Hotel. Details in this report.
The Strategic Leadership Summit sought to explore how small and medium enterprises, especially those in the agribusiness sector, could tap into the innovative transformation and dream big from the opportunities presented by the Africa Trade Treaty.
Really focuses on the key areas for this country. And that's the SMEs, who we really need to move to the next level if we're to get our country to grow, to impact as many people as possible, provide jobs, and ensure that we move from the step that we are at to another level.
African Continental Free Trade Area that came into force on 1st January 2021 could be the biggest economic game changer in the African history.
When you look at African Continental Free Trade Area, it's at a younger stage right now, because those are the stages we started with long time ago, 2005, when we started reducing our tariff. When you look at the tariff offers they are giving, for us being LDC, a low developed country, we have, it will take 10 years for us to have that benefit.
Despite the challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic in regional and continental trade, the long-term opportunities are unlimited.
If we start now, that means we shall be a step ahead to be ready to trade. So with the African Continental Free Trade and the benefits that comes with it.
The digital space, public and private sector collaboration is expected to give leverage to Uganda in continental trade.
If we look at the smallholder farmer, for instance, they have essentially failed to access funding or information for that matter. So for the funding piece, we can then use that the data on this smallholder farmer that is collected via phone or through different apps, and use that to credit score the farmer and then give them financing.
Africa is known for its slow internal trade. However, the harmonization of trading rules at a continental level has the potential to increase intra-African trade by 52% by 2022. Charlotte Amuge for UBC Business.
Thank you so much, Charlotte Amuge. In more news, the move by Gara County's legislature to amend the constitution to reduce the roles of Bank of Uganda governors hangs in balance as the Parliamentary Legal Affairs Committee subjects his proposed amendment to serious scrutiny. In this bill, Michael Mawanda has failed to convince the members on why the governor and the deputy should not be on the board and why deputy governor should have a time limit while governor has no time limit. From Parliament, Philip Aguta reports.
for purposes of macro and microeconomic stability.
From 2019, Igara County East MP Michael Mawanda has been researching to draft a bill to amend Article 161 of the Constitution that deals with the affairs of Bank of Uganda. Mawanda particularly wants the governor and his deputy to be removed from being board members of the central bank as opposed to the current situation. He says that this is to avoid mismanagement and conflict of interest.
What Parliament considered was that there was fusion of management and leadership of the board in the affairs of the central bank, where the chairman of the board was the governor of the central bank. So he would handle matters as the governor, still in the same chair, handle matters of the board, still in the same place.
Bank of Uganda was established in 1966, and from that time till to date, the governor also doubles as board chairperson, which Mawanda believes can cause managerial problems, while some lawmakers believe it helps to keep the secrecy of monetary policies.
There was rationale why there was fusion, what appears to be fusion in functions, that a governor and deputy are board members of the board of directors of Bank of Uganda. There was a reason and there was a justification. I don't think it is something that was created out of the blue. And you did allude to the sensitivity. What I want to understand from you is whether in your research you tried to understand why initially that fusion was there.
The lawmaker also proposed in his bill for the deputy governor to have a term limit of 10 years, while for the governor is unspecified. A proposal committee members are carefully treating with to a watertight scrutiny.
If you could help the members who will eventually write a report supporting this bill or not, why the deputy governor is having a term limit? I think, Honourable Chair, it will be up to the House and the members to decide. That's my proposal. We wanted the governor. The core question. Yes.
However, Mawanda's hope of amending the bill on Bank of Uganda can remain alive if he convinces the committee beyond reasonable doubt on grey areas in his proposed amendment, and as well as allow the committee to further polish and fix the concerns therein. Philip Aguta, UBC News in Kampala.
We'll still keep you updated as that bill goes on until the final words, whatever will be final. In most stories, police and parliament have been ranked as institutions with the highest cases of corruption in Uganda. The ranking was conducted on behalf of the Inspectorate of Government by Uganda Bureau of Statistics in 125 districts, of which Uganda with corruption cases added world leaders to the grassroots level. Now details in this report.
The fourth National Integrity Survey Report 2019, conducted by Uganda Bureau of Statistics, has implicated police, parliament, followed by the judiciary respectively, as the highest ranked institutions marred with corruption.
In most cases, we are the one who bribe the traffic officer before they even ask for money. When I'm in a hurry, we initiate the bribe so that the traffic officer does not waste time by asking many questions. Unfortunately, the land grabbers do not fear anyone, whether you work for government or layman. Personally, I was almost robbed of my land, and I fought a battle in a court for 9 years, which I eventually won last year. Now imagine a poor man from our rural communities.
The survey, which was conducted on behalf of the Inspectorate of Government, highlighted greed as the main driver of corruption. The leading form of corruption cited to worsen poverty and prevent development was embezzlement, with the survey regarded as being unique.
This study is unique in its way that is the first time as the Bureau of Statistics to try to triangulate the findings both quantitatively and qualitatively. And these terms helps us to understand that actually corruption exists. And these were some of the terms they used. Kachai, give me some what? Some tea. Among other things is the, like, kubamungalo, kintu kidogo. Give me something what? Small.
The Deputy Inspector General of Government, George Bamugemerere, says there is need to invest in the prevention of corruption. Bamugemerere says the time has come for people to be bold about corruption, and appointment of leaders must be done with accountability.
Because the day we manage to hold people accountable for what has gone wrong in institutions for which they are responsible, you'll be amazed how leaders will take proactive action to actually hold people accountable for the things that go wrong. I think that is a very important point. But it takes boldness to say, I don't want an explanation. If you have not taken action on your own, in your institution, then you share the punishment with the person you say committed the offense. You'll be surprised how changes will come.
He says citizens must put much more emphasis on the drivers of high-impact losses such as roads, health, education, among others.
The interest of the citizen must be taken into account. This is a democracy. We've just gone through an election. And we've been saying, when people are casting the ballot, they don't usually care about the big issues. They are thinking about how the government affects me. When I try to access public services, do I get them? And sometimes the monetary value is very small. You've gone to a health center which you expect, where you don't expect to pay. And they charge you, say, before a nurse touches you, please bring 5,000 shillings. In the grand scheme of things, 5,000 shillings is not much. But to the citizen who's experienced it, they get angry.
Respondents reported that they frequently experienced corruption, with 28% experiencing maladministration in the last 12 months. Anti-corruption agencies and stakeholders were urged to effectively implement their anti-corruption strategies and interventions to ensure that corruption and maladministration are reduced. The Inspectorate is to use the national surveys to generate empirical information that can be used by government and other stakeholders to develop strategies that combat corruption. Sudat Kai, UBC News.
As more small and medium enterprises adopt online marketing, the growing access to internet is opening up e-commerce employment opportunities for the youth in Uganda. Now we meet up with Alex Isova, a 27-year-old independent e-sales consultant who is tapping into numerous opportunities in the e-commerce platform to improve his livelihood. Details in this report.
As he looks over the pictures of his home construction project, back when he took on an e-commerce sales consultancy at Jumia, Uganda.
In Uganda, we are just developing. E-commerce is growing, but it is growing at a very rapid rate. So for now, I can't say we have reached somewhere, and I can't say we are still low, but we are somewhere. Because I see people are positively adjusting to e-commerce. And each and every day you find new people having websites, you find people marketing their goods and services over the internet. So we are reaching somewhere, and with time we shall have the best of it.
E-commerce is a business model that lets companies or individuals buy and sell goods, products or services globally over the internet. E-commerce is rapidly growing, and Uganda is expected to shortly become the second largest online market in East Africa after Kenya.
We have people who are on social media, so they really need help looking for products. People are very busy in their offices, so sometimes they're on social media, sometimes they're on commerce platforms like Gigi, the former OLX. So what you do is to post adverts, and where necessarily you boost them. So that's where customers come from.
However, due to the absence of specific e-commerce regulations, the risks trading online still scare some users.
It's a question of competence, but this is a new field, and you can't expect a 45-year-old to understand it as much as a 25-year-old who has been interacting with these figures for like 5 years. So we could say there is a certain knowledge gap in the people responsible for making policy decisions for ICT, which is understandable. We're all moving into new territory here. Some of the applications that people are developing do not have an existing legal framework to back their regulation.
But this pessimism hasn't deterred the risk takers like Alex, who believes in efficiency of online transactions.
So there are many fraudsters online who will call you and they want to deliver to them, but in the essence they want to grab something from you. Maybe you go with a product, they take it to somewhere where there are no people, and later they want to steal something from you.
As of January 2020, internet users in Uganda were recorded to be over 17 million, nearly a third of Uganda's estimated 45 million people.
Now here in Uganda, an economy that takes a bit of its time, we should probably understand that there is going to be a very big knowledge gap for the entrepreneurs themselves, the people participating in technology. So there is a very serious need for mentorship.
The potential for young Ugandans like Alex is a national prospect due to the large youth numbers that can provide efficient e-consultancy labor for the country. If favorable policies are enacted, it will be prudent that government and private sector-led innovators collaborate to create a robust e-commerce sector. Wadulo Makanold for UBC News in Kampala.
That's all we had for you for now. Thank you so much for watching UBC TV Inspiring Uganda and watching UBC Lunchtime News at 1 p.m. to 1:29 p.m. My name is Sharon. Have a good afternoon and a great weekend ahead of you.
The day the world stopped,